Hello, everyone, and I wanted to talk to you today on the first full Saturday of college football season, the 2024-2025 college football season, about a few things that I find really, really interesting about Disney's involvement with college football in the United States and their overall involvement in sport through their ESPN and sports subsidiaries. So, first, let's start with this week. This week, in week one, 66 of the 94 televised games in FBS or football bowl subdivision, 66 of 94 of those games that are televised on some Disney platform or subsidiary. That could be ABC, it could be ESPN, ESPNU, ESPN2, ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, the streaming service, is a huge proponent or component of this because a lot of schools, especially schools in smaller divisions or the ones that are not in what are considered the power divisions, their media rights negotiations, when they sign those with their conferences, call for those schools to have a lot more games on the ESPN Plus platform. Okay. So a lot of these games, a big percentage of these games will be on the ESPN Plus platform. But overall, in week one, we have 66 of 94 games, or 70.2% of the games being broadcast in week one on a Disney owned platform. Included in that, if we look at Thursday games and we break those down, 15 of the 20 games that were shown on Thursday were on a Disney channel. Friday, August 30th, there were six televised games. Three of those, or 50%, were on a Disney owned platform. And then on Saturday, the first full Saturday, as I said, August 31st, 46 of 66 games will be shown on a Disney owned platform. Now, again, this includes FBS or football bowl subdivision. If we expanded this to FCS, the football championship subdivision, this number would only skew higher and the percentage would only skew higher because a lot of those conferences and a lot of those schools would have their games on ESPN Plus, the streaming service. And that's really important because when we look at the reach ESPN has in sports through their various channels, linear and streaming platforms, they have so much more ability to reach consumers and reach fans than most, if not all, of their rival companies, which is really, really interesting to look at and really, really powerful for the Walt Disney Company. If we look at the first 3 weeks of the college football season, and the reason I stopped at 3 weeks is beyond that, is really when a lot of games, it's not known what they're going or what network or what platform they're going to be available on until the week of that game because of different time slots and different availabilities. And as seasons go on, major networks are going to want to pick up the games that are going to attract the most number of viewers. Okay. So the first 3 weeks are really what we have to look at. So as I said, in week one, 70.2% of the games that are being televised are on a Disney owned channel or platform. In week two, 58.9%, or 46 of the 78 televised games, are going to be on a Disney owned channel or platform. And in week three, 57.1%, or 36 of the 63 games that are going to be televised, that we know are going to be televised as of now, are going to be on a Disney owned platform. And so what's really, really interesting about all of that is the number of viewers these games bring into the ESPN platforms, the ESPN linear channels on ABC. And what's really, really important for all of that is the ad revenue. So one thing that you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube and you're looking at my virtual background is this is the first year that the college football playoff is expanding from 4 teams to 12 teams. And so the bracket is behind me. You see the first 4 teams have a bye for the first round. Um, and then the first round is 12 versus 5, 9 versus 8, 11 versus 6, 10 versus 7. Those winners go on to face the 4 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed, and 3 seed in the quarterfinals. The winners of those will meet in the semifinals. The winners of those, as you see, will meet on January 20th in Atlanta, Georgia for the national championship game. What's so powerful about this right now is when the college football playoff started 10 years ago, it has proven to be so monumentally successful in viewership and ad revenue that it was long a given that it was going to expand at some point. Okay. What's really, really important for Disney is Disney has always owned media rights for the college football playoffs. ESPN has always owned the media rights for the college football playoffs. So every year since it started, there have been 2 semifinal games and a national championship game. So there's been 3 games of the college football playoffs. All of those have always been on ESPN. Okay. And their original contract would run through the 2025-26 season. Okay. So there's 2 more years on their original contract. But this last year or in May, they signed a new agreement, a new media rights agreement with the college football playoff worth $7.8 billion over 6 years. And again, the seasons 2024-25 this season, 25-26 next season, they're being amended so that ESPN has access to all 12 games, and Disney will have access to all 12 college football playoff games. So that means Disney, through their various subsidiaries and sports properties, will have media rights for the college football playoffs through 2031-32 season. Okay. That's a lot of money that Disney is spending, right? Especially in a time when we have seen retraction, we have seen cost cutting in major parts of the company. And also, over the last few years, we've heard discussion of would Disney ever sell off ESPN, or would they possibly break ESPN off into a separate company, making it more easy to find people to invest in ESPN, or possibly at one point sell off ESPN. And here's one reason why it seems like maybe that is not going to be the case because of this major investment that Disney has made in college football and through their sports brands. So, for a little bit of kind of backstory on this, um, in the agreement that Disney has made with the college football playoffs through the 2031-32 season, the college football playoff championship game will begin to be shown on ABC, their major linear network, starting in the 2026-27 season. Okay. So the number of viewers that Disney has on ESPN pales in comparison to the number of viewers they would be able to get if a game is on ABC. Okay. So that's one really, really important thing to this. Disney also, in this latest agreement, has the ability to expand their college football playoff offerings to other platforms. Okay. So these games can be shown on ESPN, they can be shown on the various ESPN networks, they could even be shown on ESPN Plus, and they could be shown on ABC. Disney also can sub-license these games for the college football playoffs. So they could sell the rights to other companies, other channels to have those games on that network or on those channels. And in addition to this, in January 2024, ESPN gained the media rights to show all 40 NCAA championship events Those are at the NCAA level one, Division One. They are have the ability to show all 40 championship events, and that was worth $920 million dollars. Okay. So again, a lot of money being spent by the Walt Disney Company on sports, and we have talked a lot on here about where does that money come from, and are how are they going uh, to present this to customers? Is price going to be passed on to customers? We don't know how much price will be passed on to customers. Remember, Disney still has the standalone ESPN app that is going to be coming out by 2025. So it'll yet to be seen what happens with that. Right now, Venue Sports, the joint relationship or joint venture they have with Fox and with channels like TNT and TBS through Max, that's being held up right now in the legal system with legal challenges. So we'll see what happens with that. But here is a little bit of information about how much sport advertisement has brought into the Walt Disney Company, and is a point or proof to me that it's probably not changing. They're probably good holding on with to ESPN at least for a good while longer, right? So first, if we look at the 2023-24 college football playoff, as of December 2023, ESPN was already close to selling out all advertisements for the college football playoff in 2023 and 24, and they did go on to sell all advertisements for that. Further, college football, as far as ad revenue, they played a big chunk in ESPN's overall $3.6 billion in ad revenue that was brought in for 2023-24 fiscal year. Now, company as a whole, just so you have a little bit of background on that, or you have a little bit of comparison on that, as a whole, the Walt Disney Company ads brought in ad revenue of 11.5 billion. So ESPN brought in 3.6 billion dollars of that. Okay. That's a pretty good chunk. That's a sizable chunk from their sports subsidiaries and their sports channels, both linear and streaming platforms. Okay. Also, a research firm called EDI, they found that consumers were 3% more likely to search for products if that product was shown on an ad on an ESPN channel versus a rival sports channel. Now, some of this is because ESPN has such a large swath over sports. The vast majority, I mean, we talked about in the first 3 weeks how many games, what the percentage of the games are going to be shown on Disney related properties or ESPN channels. In this season, it's a huge number. It's a huge percentage. So that somewhat explains in a little bit why people would be more likely to look up a product if they watch something or they see that product on ESPN versus a rival sports network, because they're watching ESPN more to be able to do that. And that's going to continue that way because this year we have college the college align or sorry the conference realignment, where we had the Big Ten expand. They added Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. Now the Big Ten network is affiliated with Fox. Okay, so all Big Ten network and a lot of Big Ten games will be shown on Fox networks. However, those major games can still be shown on ESPN, ABC, on Disney-owned channels. Okay, so the Big Ten is affiliated with the Fox network. However, if we look at the SEC, this last year, ESPN agreed to media rights for the SEC, arguably the largest college football conference in the nation. It's between SEC and Big Ten. So ESPN's ability to get in on the SEC and showing SEC games on ABC rather than how SEC used to be shown on CBS, that was a major takeaway for ESPN and for the Walt Disney Company to be able to show that marquee game on ABC rather than it being shown on CBS. On top of that, the SEC network is owned by ESPN. So all SEC network games are they build into this ESPN, these ESPN numbers, these Walt Disney numbers. This year, the SEC expanded, adding the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. ESPN has strong ties with the Big 12. The Big 12 has a streaming network or just kind of rebranded network on their ESPN Plus streaming service. The Big 12 this year added Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State. So now that conference is large and it's covering a lot of the country. The ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, now reaches from the Atlantic Coast to the Pacific Coast. When they added this year, they added SMU, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and then they also added University of California, and they added Stanford University. So if you look at college athletics and college football, now ESPN and Disney has the ability that they own media rights to so many of these leagues and so many of these teams that it makes sense. More people are watching those networks, and therefore that's helping ad revenue and that's helping kind of that move through or click through rate that I just talked about. So last year, the largest viewership for a college football game was actually the Michigan Ohio State game at 11.7 million. Now, that was on Fox, okay? But Disney recorded its second most watched regular season since 2016, averaging almost 1.7 million viewers a game across ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPNU. Okay. So any game that was on one of those networks, almost 1.7 million viewers were watching those games on average. That's a really, really big number. Included in that, 21 of the top 50 games for that season, or 42% of the top 50 games, were on a Disney owned network like ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. And then finally on ESPN Plus posted record numbers this last year with unique viewers and minutes of viewing climbing 3% and 8% respectively. So what that means is a unique viewer, the number of different people watching, the number of different viewers watching. So it doesn't really take into the account like if I have it on in my household and four other people or five other people are watching. Okay. What it means is it's really taking into account the unique viewers, or if you want to think about it this way, unique viewing places where that game is on, whether that's at a home, whether that's in a dorm apartment, it's at different, establishments like maybe a sports bar or something like that. Okay. So that's kind of what unique viewers are. Now, um, minutes viewing, which is really, really important, has become extremely important for streaming services. Minutes viewing means how long that game is on or how long people are engaged with that game. And this last year, that grew by 8% for the ESPN Plus channel, which is very, very important for ESPN, for ESPN Plus, and for the Walt Disney Company. And so, what I think is really, really important and really, really interesting as we look into and start this new college football season is the investment the Walt Disney Company has made in college football alone in the college football playoff signals their willingness to and their belief that ESPN and their ESPN subsidiary is going to be with the company for a long time and is still vitally important to the company. Now, yes, it doesn't make as much money as it used to for the company percentage wise, because of the number of people who are cutting cords and the number of people who are not watching linear television anymore. However, this combined with the fact that, as we talked about previously, Disney received the A package for the NBA media rights. signals that the company is going to keep ESPN around for a long time, and that ESPN is still a very, very important part of the company for engagement, for viewers, and from a financial perspective as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about this, I know it was a lot of information, but if you have any questions about this, please reach out. Let's talk about this and let's enjoy what is to come with this college football season. Let's enjoy what's to come with a new year of college athletics. And that's it'll be interesting to see what happens as we move forward, not just with this season, and what happens on the field and what happens on courts in college athletics, but the behind the scenes as well, the media negotiation rights, media rights as well. So thank you very much for watching and listening. Have a great rest of your day.